So I have certain messages that would be really fun to give, but they don't have a home. Daily Thunder, Nathan and I, for the past years, have delivered messages as part of series. So we'll usually be unpacking a series or book of the Bible, a key theme or a key concept. I'm oftentimes dabbling in historical moments, historical events, historical people. And so I have these ideas that don't really fit series, but they would be really fun to unpack. And this is one of them. So I've sort of created my own little sub-series. So they have a series now, and that's called Spiritual Lessons from, well, all sorts of things. And so that's actually the name of the series. Isn't that a fun name? But then each one is spiritual lessons from, and you fill in the blank. So already in this series, I've done spiritual lessons from Desmond Doss, which if you haven't heard that one, whew, that's a powerhouse message. And then I did spiritual lessons from F1 racing, which is a little embarrassing to say that I actually did that, but I did. And ironically, it's one of the most powerful messages I've given in this entire year. It was very, very powerful. And so it's shockingly powerful. And it's not to try and work up interest in F1 racing. It's more just saying this is very similar to Christianity in this unique regard. And it was powerful. This one is totally in its own little category. I've never done a message like this, and it's called Being Joe Hardy, Spiritual Lessons from Dragon Mountain. You might have no idea what that is, but there's some of you that are lingering near Ellerslie that know exactly what that is. So if you happen to know what it is, this is fun, and you might be able to guess where I might go with this. And who Joe Hardy is. Someone was asking if that is a picture of Chris Pratt up there. I said, well, we'll find out. And you'll laugh when you figure out who that actually is. Key truth. To feel what God feels is possibly the closest brush with heaven we can enjoy on this earth. I just want you to ponder that for a second. To feel what God feels. If you want to be intimate with God, if you want to be close to God, if you want to share in the fellowship of his sufferings, you want to be where he is, you want to think what he thinks and be a part of that close connection with him, then to feel what he feels will accomplish that. Now, you can't make yourself feel what God feels. It's not like you can just say, okay, God, I want to feel what you feel, and it's just done. You have to actually go after that as a pursuit, like a miner does gold. I want to know what God feels. I want to be available to what God feels, and I want to be willing to actually feel it, that my heart would beat with his burdens. By the way, what I'm talking about is one of the most high-risk ventures you could ever involve yourself in. John Prayne Hyde went after this, and he was a man that lived, I want to say 1800s. I can't remember when John Hyde lived. Do you remember? Was that 1800s? Okay, and he's just a magnificent man of God, but he is going to begin to carry God's burdens, and he is going to learn to feel what God feels, and he's going to ache for what God aches. And it's said that his heart literally moved to a different spot behind his rib cage, and he had a serious ailment that would kill him. His heart was literally going through such contortions because of the weight and the anxiety that he was carrying, feeling what God feels. And it's like, are we sure we want to touch that? There was a season where Leslie and I were really being stirred. We had had a miscarriage, and in and through that miscarriage, God had sensitized us to the vulnerable and the weak in such a profound way. I mean, it is an extraordinary little stretch of our life. And every day, wherever I was going, I want to say I went off to work, but I'm not sure what I was doing. And Leslie was always working on a project. Every day, she would find another story somewhere in the world of something that was really happening that we wouldn't typically want to know about. Like how some child was being injured. And so we were learning about street kids in Brazil. We were learning about kids in the sex trafficking industry, and that were little 8-year-old girls that were being put on slave blocks and being sold to minors for the highest bid. It's like, what? Things that you would never actually want to know or hear. And we sort of braved it, and we're like, okay, every day we'll read one of these and we will say, okay, Lord, we want to feel what you feel. We want to ache for what you ache for. And it was a transformative season of our life. And so that's part of what I want to dive into is this, I'm calling it being Joe Hardy, and that'll make sense as we progress. Matthew 25. This is the scripture that actually brought Leslie and I together. Our first burden was for the weak, the least, and the last. So this is what Jesus says. I was hungry, and you gave me food. And he's talking to the sheep in this. He's going to separate out sheep and goats in his storyline, and this is how he's talking to the sheep. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. I came across the song I wrote. It used to be called Matthew 25:40. It's what it's still called. It was never a published song. Leslie and I have multiple albums, but we never published that song. But it was this song that we wrote right in the very beginning of our friendship even. And it was like this burden to say, what if we actually did this? What if we actually allowed our life to be contoured around God's heart? What would that look like? And I wish I could say to you that I'm always at that peak of saying, God, I'm ready to serve the least and the last and the weak. Because what I do is I get up there and I see it, and it's not that I haven't done it. I've done it. I've been on missions trips. I've been a missionary for years of my life. I've adopted 4 kids. It's not the absence of doing it. It's the fact that there can be lulls. And I don't like those lulls. I don't know how you feel about lulls in your life where you still theoretically and theologically know how you're supposed to live, and you're like, oh, absolutely, that's what you're supposed to be doing. But it doesn't mean you're doing it. I don't like that. And so it's a constant rehearsal in my soul, just like caring for the lost and sharing the gospel wherever you go. It's like you have seasons where you're doing it, and then seasons where you're not. What's the difference? Well, you're not sharing it anymore. There's some kind of lull that has taken place. I want to get all the lulls out of there. Dragon Mountain. It was a theater production. See, you're trying to figure out spiritual lessons from, and it's a theater production. Yep, it's a theater production that Hudson, my son, and I wrote. So it was a few years ago now. Hudson, at one point in time, was very interested in making movies, and so he wanted to tell stories. And so it's quite a storyline. I'm not going to go into it tonight, but we wrote a book together, and it's called Hoodlum. And it was an extremely special experience for the two of us to work on that. And then he wanted to turn it into a theater production, but at the time we were looking at this storyline, we're like, that's a 100-person cast, and we have this stage. Okay, how in the world are we supposed to do that? And that's what's ironic, is we actually did the theater production of Hoodlum in June of this year on this stage, but it didn't have 100 people in the cast. And so we wrote a minimalistic production called Dragon Mountain, which had basically 4 characters on stage and a cardboard cutout. But that's beside the point. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Dragon Mountain was a theater production, and there's a character in this storyline named Joe Hardy. So he's the rugged, fearless adventurer. He actually has a TV show called Saltworthy Adventures, and he's kind of like Steve Irwin, the crocodile guy. I can't remember is it Crocodile Hunter? Is that what he's called? And we even originally sort of sketched this guy out as being Australian. And so it's like, it was kind of a mimic of that. And we had this great vision for how this character was going to be. And his name was Joe Hardy. And so this was the t-shirt. This is just a picture of the front of the t-shirt. So that's actually Joe Hardy. So you can get an idea. That's one cool guy. Look at that guy. There he is, just in case you couldn't figure it out. So we had a choice for who was going to play Joe. And Ben Price, who's a good friend of mine from Australia, was going to actually be a part of this, and he was going to do Joe Hardy. So look at this guy, okay? First of all, he's rugged, he's square-jawed, and he's Australian, okay? Can you get anything better than that? Now, he's a comedian. He's, I think, what was his nickname? Australia's best impersonator. So he does like hundreds and hundreds of voices, and he just nails them. And so we were thinking, yeah, maybe a little Steve Irwin and Ben Price mixed together. This is going to be great, and we'll have the perfect Joe Hardy. Who was not our choice for Joe? Now, this was actually very deliberate, and it wasn't just me. It was kind of the entire Ludy family that made it very clear there's someone who should not play Joe Hardy. This guy. Funny-mouthed and not Australian, okay? I mean, there wasn't even a possibility that this guy, by the way, for those of you getting this via podcast, there's a picture of me not looking so good on the screen. There is no way that this guy is going to be Joe Hardy. I mean, does that look like Joe Hardy to you? No. Yeah. So my impressive resume as an actor, okay, maybe the word impressive is a bit of an overstatement. I've gone out of my way to make it clear I'm not an actor. And it even seems like I've tried at various times to convince other people I'm not an actor too. So as the story goes, Hudson was very interested in movie making, so we went to a Kendrick Brothers film set for, what movie was that? Overcomer. And so we were there and we were in the crowd. So if you watch the first scene of Overcomer where they're playing basketball and where the coach is, Hudson and I are right above that. And so we're in this scene, and this scene took like 7 hours to film, right? So we take after take after take, and the take that they chose was not my best moment, okay, guys? And so I have to be disappointed about the loss. I'm like, oh. And my kids were just not impressed, okay? So that is their enunciation of my acting ability, was that, being an extra in the background of Overcomer, and that totally shot any potential of me ever being in any acting position, right? So, and I have to admit, I wasn't itching for any acting positions either. It's like, let me just be Eric. If I'm acting Eric, I can do that really well. If I have to act someone else, everything gets weird, and everyone else gets weird around me. So let's just keep it as it is. So I've been pondering this even as I was preparing this message, and that's maybe sort of a new definition of what an actor even is, because this is what profoundly impacted me in this storyline, which is why I'm bringing it up, is an actor is kind of one that takes something, someone defined, and steps into their shoes and just sort of lives life from their perspective. And what I've been doing when I meet with the students, usually we would have done it today on a Wednesday, but we punted it to Friday this week. But we'll break you guys up into 4 different groups, and you'll come in and sit down in our office, and we'll chat. And I've been finishing each time doing it with reading this book that I wrote a few months ago. It's called Jamaica Mon, and it's called the subtitle is A New Sort of Superhero, and it's about Kipling, and it's very profound. That's all I can say, is there's something about this that has been very special with me. But there's this moment in it, I'm going to give the definition, a new definition for an actor, stepping into someone else's shoes for a brief jaunt around the library. There's a moment in that story where we're realizing that Kip has something that causes wavelengths of light to refract differently in his mind and his brain than in mine. So he had a tough time reading and doing math because it's white paper with black ink on it, and just everything sort of moves around, and it's very difficult to focus. And so I found myself getting frustrated with him because I think that he should be able to read. You just put your heart into it and do it. And I didn't understand what he was going through. And in this moment, when he's getting tested for there are lenses that he was getting tested for. And so now he's gone through this test. It's called an Erlen test. He has 3 layers of colored lenses, and when he sticks them over his eyes, everything calms. And everything now has dimension that never has had dimension before, and he didn't even know it could have dimension. He has 20/20 vision, and suddenly he puts this on and he can see things he couldn't see before. And he's taking these around the library, and he says, is this what the world is supposed to look like? And I tell you what, it was one of the most moving and profound moments in my life, because I'm stepping into his shoes and I'm walking around a library and I'm thinking, you don't see that? You've never seen that before? Sort of like stairs. We look at stairs and they have rise and run. But for him, it's just like a ramp. He knows there's rise and run, but he has to fill in that gap mentally. He doesn't see the dimensionality of it. Now suddenly he sticks these lenses in front of his eyes and whoa, he can see it. So look at that. Jamaica Mon, a new sort of superhero. Kip likes that cover. What happened when Ben couldn't come? Oh no. So we picked Ben for this role and guess what? Suddenly he can't make it. The moment when we all muttered, no way. Okay, I still remember it because we had a couple other backups. We had about 3 different options. I wasn't even on the list, guys. Wasn't even on the list. And so we're looking around and everyone's like, no, Daddy can't do it. No. And I'm looking around going, guys, it's pretty obvious who needs to do this, all right? I'm just as upset as you are, maybe more, okay? But let's just acknowledge the obvious, all right? We're down to one option and he wasn't even on the list. It's me. Oh, boy. Casting call. So just think about this. I mean, imagine getting a casting call for this. Now, what I'm likening this to is Christianity. We're looking for someone to play the role of great hero. One, ready to, number 1, showcase the immense love of heaven. 2, the joy found in trials and inconvenience. And 3, the long-suffering endurance required to demonstrate the power, the passion, and unstoppable mercy of God. Well, who in their right mind would ever step up and say, yeah, I can do that? Who can actually fill these shoes? In this story, Joe Hardy is a picture of the Father heart of God. And so, who actually feels comfortable stepping into that role and saying, oh, sure, that fits me. Oh, I'm perfect for that. In fact, it's probably good that I don't feel comfortable doing the role, right? Considering the inconceivable, I can't play Joe Hardy. You know that I'm enunciating Christianity for you right there? You see, the role that we've been called to play is so much bigger than we are. We're called to play the great hero. We're called to play a part that is so much greater than we can bring to the table. And it's strange, but God doesn't seem to blink and blanch at the notion. He's just like, yeah. But the way we do it is not just in our own talent, our own ability, which is really nice when it comes to Joe Hardy, because I'm not an actor, and I readily admit that. Do you know that I've been asked to be? Now, people must think I'm an actor just by hearing me and me being dramatic and everything. I've been offered to be in many movies. I haven't counted, but we're talking maybe 3 to 5 movies. I have been invited to be an actor. Some of them lead actor in movies. I'm like, no. I've turned down every single one. And so it might sound impressive to you, but my family, I have Leslie standing right here going, if I didn't say no, she would have said no. Okay, we can almost feel the embarrassment of me being in that movie, and it's, of course, just to be honest, they were probably all rather cheesy movies if they were looking for me as the main actor. Anyways, don't make any comments on that, guys. However, it's just, the whole family would have just been in agony, even thinking about it. It's like, no, please, Dad, don't do that. Don't do that. I can't play Joe Hardy. Stepping into the gigantic shoes of Joe, I don't belong here. So there's something about Joe Hardy that still to this day touches me very, very deeply. Now it's interesting because Hudson and I wrote this story, and it's about a father who is famous. You know, he has this television show, he's this rugged adventurer, and he has this episodic series following him around the world doing dangerous, dramatic things. And he lost his wife, and he has one natural-born son named Joey, you know, so sort of like Joe Jr. And he has this movement of grace in his life where his wife always wanted to adopt, so he adopts. And he gets this heart for these kids that are unwanted. They're just about to age out of the foster care system, but they've never had someone love them. And so he brings 3 older kids into his home right before they age out of the foster care system and adopts them. And to be honest, it doesn't go so well. In fact, it goes really badly. But not because of Joe. It's because it's hard to receive love if you've never been loved before. And it's a powerful story that deeply moves me. But to be Joe in the story, or to be invited to be Joe in my life, it's like, hey, Eric, do you want to be Joe? And there's part of me that wants to hesitate and pause. The question, Jesus, could you just play yourself in this drama? Why are we the ones that need to showcase Jesus in this earth? Jesus, could you just come and do it yourself because you're going to do it so much better than we do it? And yet, did you know Christianity is us stepping into that role and saying, yeah, I'm not Jesus, but here's Jesus. We are called to showcase Jesus. Now, we're not play acting, but there's a similarity in the process where the role that we are stepping into, which is great hero, is not us. It's someone greater than us. But we are supposed to showcase him through the storyline. So there's a line that really stood out to Leslie and I in this entire process. And that is, Psalm 68:5 is going to say that God is a father to the fatherless. And it's very easy when we hear about the fatherless and hear that God is a father of the fatherless to go, oh, well, I'm so glad they have a father. Well, be blessed, O orphans, because at least you have God as a father. And this idea that if a child is going to be rescued or a child is going to be adopted, it's not just because God loves them, it's because he loves them through his body. And so the message to all of us is this: you are my body. I do my rescuing work in and through you. I adopt through you. I help and serve through you. I love the unlovely through you. That's how he expresses himself on this earth, is he needs a body. We are that body. He's looking for someone. There's a casting call saying, who wants to play the great hero in this earth? And we're like, well, I don't think I'm really fit for that. None of us are. And yet that doesn't mean that we're not going to be thrust onto the stage in this role. This is precisely what it means to be Joe Hardy. It's not because you're competent at it. It's because it's the role you were designed to play. There were so many moments in this process. I mean, it really is humorous. And my family, we all sort of chuckle about it even when it comes up. Because Daddy, or if it's Leslie talking, Eric should not be doing this part. But we were out of options. And yet there were so many moments where it's just like, Eric's supposed to be doing this part. It was deeply meaningful to our family, deeply meaningful to me. So there's our poster for it. And you can see Eric transformed into Joe Hardy there for Dragon Mountain. Oh, just in case you couldn't figure out which one I was, I have an orange circle over it. That helps. That orange circle has really helped twice now. The film shoot. So we're going to go to, in the storyline, there's, I don't want to give anything away, but it starts with Joe Hardy on the screen doing one of his shows. And he's doing a show about Dragon Mountain. So that's what his most famous show was, Dragon Mountain. And technically the house that he has is at the base of Dragon Mountain, which in our storyline, we're going to then film these different shots of Joe, because Joe is going to actually pass away before the story starts. So Joe isn't never actually on stage, except in a cardboard cutout. And so there's a life-size cardboard cutout of me as Joe Hardy floating around somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it haunted us many times in the Ludy home. We'd open up a door and, oh, there it was. So, however, this is Leslie's parents' mountain house. They have a house at the base of a mountain. So that became Dragon Mountain. And that house became Joe Hardy's house. So it's actually really special. Every time I go up there, I think about the different locations in there where we did these videos. And these videos are very special. They're communications to his children. So the film shoot. Talk about uncomfortable, guys. So everyone else is acting on a stage. I need to actually do my acting in front of a camera. And there's a whole bunch of people around. And I don't pride myself as an actor in the first place. And so it was extremely uncomfortable and also a very, very special experience. So entering the character, this whole method acting concept, it can be very dangerous when you're method acting some devilish character, right? However, for me, it's like this is if you're going to method act, this is the one you'd want to do, is how about a guy who has such a heart that reveals the life, the love of Jesus, that is long-suffering, that is able to be punched in the nose and love back. And it's pretty special. So as I was going through this, as I'm walking through this becoming Joe Hardy, I had to be Joe Hardy. I was dressed like Joe Hardy Joe Hardy always has a hat on. He has his beard, and no one else has seen me in a beard except for that film shoot, okay? That's the one time in life I've actually ever had a beard, and even that one was like, 3 days, and then Harper was filling it in. So even that one wasn't really a normal beard. But as I was in that mode and I had to feel what Joe felt. And it was like God allowed me to brush against an intimacy and a closeness with him in the process that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting sort of a stressful film shoot. Instead, I actually ran into the love of God. Even as I'm going through this process, seeing what Joe sees. When I'm looking at these, I mean, technically the kids in this show, the 3 that he adopts, are not that lovely on the outside, but there's something that Joe sees. He sees preciousness. He sees preciousness when everyone else might see, and even they see something that should be rejected. And he sees through that husk, and he sees something very, very precious. So the risk, I want you guys to ponder this because this is Christianity. You see me going back and forth between an actual theater show and Christianity because I'm actually not teaching about Dragon Mountain. Dragon Mountain is just the husk in which all this happened. To feel what he feels, not to just feel what Joe feels, but to feel what God feels. To see what he sees, to do what he does. That should be a capital H. Could mean that I may die as he died. Gulp. You see, this is Christianity. This is what we're being invited into, is to actually feel what God feels, to see what God sees, to do what God does. If we do that, guys, that means we could end up dying like God died. I mean, this is what it means to follow Jesus. That's what it means to pick up your cross. There's a reason why we pull back when it comes to the love of Jesus being actuated and actually lived out in our life, because it could mean a cross. It could mean pain that we could avoid if we just didn't love like that. If we just held back and weren't so extreme, then we could avoid a lot of pain. But what God is inviting us into is closeness with him. And the only way to gain that is to take the risk. Okay, I'm willing to feel what you feel. I'm willing to see what you see. I'm willing to do what you do. And get this, I'm willing to die even as you died. Okay, Lord, that's my willingness. The scene in the living room. So there's this moment, it's building in the storyline. And so what would happen throughout this, because I'm actually going to show you a scene from the living room. And so this screen up here to my right was uncovered and everything else was covered. This was a big cave because Dragon Mountain takes place inside of a cave. It's inside of Dragon Mountain. And the 4 Hardy kids are stuck and they're on an adventure, but it's an adventure that was set up by their father before he died. And it's rather profound, very similar to the adventure God sets up for us, because he knows we're trapped inside Dragon Mountain and lost, and the only way to get out is with his help. And so he went before us to make a way. But throughout the time, you're going to have these videos that come up of Joe Hardy, the different videos that he made for his kids. And so that's what I was doing in the film shoot, is I was going around to different parts, changing my outfits, because it was different times, you know, it just happens to be a different house or a different location in the house. And so I was going around and I would take this big chunk and I would just quickly learn it, and then I would get in front of the camera and I would do it. And it was such a profound experience for me. You know, I don't know that I want to be an actor, but it was profound for me. It's like I tasted something that I'd never had before. And it's like I brushed up against God's heart in the process of actually caring for these kids, which are imaginary kids, right? Price, Hannah, and Callie, they're just fictional characters. But why did they feel so real? And so the scene in the living room is kind of a crux scene where technically Joe is at his end. He doesn't have anything else that he can give. All he can express is that he cares. And that's the scene. I'll bring you into this. Price, Hannah, Callie, I want to talk. I want to help. I want you to know that I forgive you. I don't care about the store, the cash box, the coin collection, the car, the allegations. What I care about is you guys. You're making it very clear right now you don't want me as a dad. I want to make something clear right back. I really want you as my children. It's been 7 days since you all left, and I want to share my inner thoughts. I do not regret adopting you. I don't regret loving you. I don't regret giving you the keys to the store. I believe that each of you is destined for good things. To be life givers, hope givers, love givers to this hurting world. Price, inside that tough exterior is a soft heart. It's okay to let it out. Hannah, you have a nurturing side, and I am so excited to see you cultivated. Callie, you have enough fight inside of you to save soldiers in Bastogne. Joey, hey, I'm making a little video for Price, Hannah, and Callie, and just trying to encourage him to come home. Did you want to say something to him? Whoa, Joey. Okay. Hey, the pain is fresh. You're gonna find that good is gonna come out of this. Okay. I should edit that out. I don't even really know how to do that. I don't even know where you guys are right now. I don't know that you'll ever see this. But I want you to know you have a father who dearly loves you and will always be here for you. The unique moments in our life when we're able to touch that heart of God, when we're able to actually know it, it's not because we're some great picture of love. It's that he is such a great picture of love. But he sheds that love abroad in our heart, and we're able to brush up against it and know him at a deeper level. Opening night of Dragon Mountain was, and I've made this very clear, one of the greatest nights of my life. Now, multiple reasons, because it wasn't because I was on screen, right, as Joe Hardy. Part of it was that Hudson had created a theater show, and he was in it. Harper was in it. She was one of the main actresses. It was just like amazing. And the very end, I walked out, not as Joe Hardy, but as a guy who knows Joe Hardy. And I was crying as I was standing up here on the stage, just doing the finishing remarks to it. And it was just like an angel choir, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys have moments in your life or times in your life where just everything just sort of stops and you recognize and you see something that it's like, all right, that's life right there. This is what we get to have on this earth. It doesn't always feel that special, but you get those moments where you're able to slow down and see it. So what I would come out and do at the end of the show is I would talk about what's called the doctrine of exquisite preciousness. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard that phrase, because it's not necessarily a normal phrase, but we've used it here at Ellerslie quite a bit. To talk about exquisite preciousness is like just this bomb of mercy, and it's sometimes hard to understand mercy. In fact, it's sort of scary. Mercy scares some of us because if you feel like if you give it, it might be taken advantage of. You ever had that where it's just like, well, I don't want to give too much mercy because then someone could run roughshod over me. And yet, there is something to this that is just so profound, and boy, did it stand out to my soul that night. So I actually Hudson and I have 3 books that accompany Dragon Mountain. And so this one is actually written, it says by Joe Hardy. You know, we put the book together, but Joe Hardy has a book. He's an imaginary character, but he wrote a book called The Doctrine of Exquisite Preciousness. So this is the thought, okay? And I want you guys to just bask in it. The most expensive real estate in the world. So I did some research on this, and Monaco, Hong Kong, London, Singapore, Geneva. These are the most expensive real estate locations in the world. So, and I can't remember what it is. Monaco, it's so expensive. It's like $60,000 for a square foot of dirt. You know, it's like massively expensive. And so then the question is, how do you define value for real estate? Why is it more expensive in Monaco than it is in Hong Kong, London, Singapore, or Geneva, or here in Windsor, Colorado? And it's because someone is willing to pay for it. That's why. Real estate value is directly related to the willingness that someone has to pay that amount. So if someone's willing to pay $60,000 a square foot, guess what? Well, that property is worth $60,000 a square foot. So just think about this, guys. That means that Monaco is actually not the most expensive real estate in the world. Not even close. There is real estate that is far more valuable than Monaco, and that is the human life. Because Jesus gave up his life to purchase it. So actually, every square foot of your human body is worth of inestimable worth. It's worth beyond calculation. The biggest, most expensive real estate transaction in world history. Jesus purchased the church with his own blood. So the most expensive real estate in the world, it's you. Worth the shed blood of Jesus Christ. It's you, worth his almighty life given up. It's you, worth God coming to earth to save. It's you, worth God himself suffering and dying. It's you of an inestimable, unfathomable worth. This is where I want to flip the script on this one, because it's one thing to recognize your value, but sometimes we fail to interpret this in the way God wants us to. It's not just you, it's also them. And them, if we were to start filling in who is them, sometimes them are not that clean. They're not that good smelling. They might not look like someone you would want to hang out with. And yet that human life is of inestimable value to God. And if you can recognize both the value that you have in God's eyes and then the value that others have in God's eyes, it can change you. So the most expensive real estate in the world is also them, worth the shed blood of Jesus Christ. Them, worth his almighty life given up. Them, worth God coming to earth to save. Them, worth God himself suffering and dying. And them, of inestimable, unfathomable worth. So here's the doctrine of exquisite preciousness. That which is unlovely is loved. That which is unholy is pursued. That which is unrighteous is suffered for. That which is unworthy is died for. That which is weak is rescued. And that which the world considers nothing is exquisitely precious. The unfathomable gospel. Oh, I love this thought, guys. You don't receive what you deserve. You receive what Christ deserves. So, to even be able to comprehend, because if you were to measure how the gospel should intersect with your life, you would be right if you say, but God, I don't deserve it. And that's true. None of us deserve the mercy of God, the grace of God, the forgiveness of God. We don't deserve it. It's actually what he deserves that we receive. He is going to come and he is going to play the role of the hero. And he is going to stand in our stead. He is going to take the penalty that is ours. He is going to redeem us with his shed blood. He is going to then rise again on the third day, proving himself victorious. He's going to ascend to the right hand, our champion. What does he deserve? Everything. God sets him at his right hand, puts all things beneath his feet, and trusts him with the kingdom. He deserves it all. And then what does he choose to do? To share it with us. Stunning, staggering. We don't deserve this. If we got what we deserve, well, I don't even want to fill in the blank of what that would be. We would be eternally cut off. We would be condemned. We would be judged. We would be punished. We do not get what we deserve. We get what he deserves. Now, again, just like that last thing where we flipped the script, I want you to think about this. The unfathomable gospel, you don't give them what they deserve. You give them what Christ deserves. This is Matthew 25:40, where literally what you do unto the least of these, you're doing it unto Jesus. Give them what Christ deserves. Care for them. Love them. Sacrifice for them. But Eric, the them you're talking about, they don't deserve it. They've rejected God. They don't care about things above. You see, this is the life that we are called to live. Jesus gave up his life, and there are people that he gave up his life for that have snubbed him, that have rejected it. It doesn't mean that you only give to those that understand its value. You give Jesus because Jesus gave everything to you. You are willing to give everything he's given to you to others, even if they don't care for it well. You don't give them what they deserve. You give them what Christ deserves. Matthew 13. When he had found one pearl of great price, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. And then in 1 Corinthians 6, for you were bought at a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. So he found a pearl of great price, and he sold everything in order to get it. And it's hard to even comprehend that we could be such a pearl. I mean, why? We can look at each other and say, well, I don't think that's talking about us. And yet, we're the ones he purchased. We're the ones he gave up everything to gain. It's pretty amazing. There's a story, it seems like I shared this a few months ago, but it's always just one that needs to be brought to the surface again, of two Chinese prisoners, and they are, in the middle of the winter, all they have is they're chained to this dirt floor as a little thin blanket around their shoulders, and they're frigid cold. And one of these prisoners has a thought. If that was Jesus sitting next to me, would I give him my blanket? Now, pause and stick yourself in the story now. All you have is a thin blanket, but you also have a thought, and that is, if that was Jesus next to you, would you give him your blanket? Now, I understand what your thought process could be. It's probably the same as mine. He has his own blanket already. I think he's fine. I'm already cold. If I give this up, I'll be even colder. However, what this Chinese man did is he reasoned and he said, if that was Jesus, it would be the greatest honor I have to give this thin blanket to him. It's all I have. But could you imagine if that was Jesus? And he set that thin blanket around his brother. And I want us to just ponder that, because that's in what I'm calling being Joe Hardy. It's something beyond our human reasoning. It's beyond our human ability. It's how God lives. And that's what that whole story is about. It's someone behaving as the Father in heaven behaves. And it changes everyone in the story. And we have the opportunity. We're being invited in, and we're like looking around the room going, you've got to be kidding. I can't play that part. And yet we're the ones chosen for the part. Strangely enough, it's like, no. You need to be Jesus. Not in the sense that we are Jesus. It's the sense that we need to reveal him. We have a role to play in this earth. We're uniquely called to demonstrate the unseen realm and to show this heart, this passion, this willingness to sacrifice, this love in and through our lives. What an incredible privilege.
Hey guys, this is just a little tag on, like bumper at the end of this particular episode. Here we are talking about Dragon Mountain, and I forgot to mention that Hudson has made it actually available so that you can stream it online and see it. Now, isn't that fun? After hearing this entire message, Who doesn't want to go and stream this and actually see it? I mean, you can see Joe Hardy in action. So I think he has it set up, donation of any amount, and you can grab it. Go to ellerslie.com/watch Dragon Mountain. So if you can't remember that, ellerslie.com/watch Dragon Mountain, then you can go to the show notes or the description, and it'll be there waiting for you. God's blessings, everyone.